Hi there, guys, and welcome to Behind the Crypto podcast. I'm Mike Graham, and I'm your guide and host as we have some fantastic conversations with builders, founders, and wave makers in the Web3 crypto space. And today we have Tzahi, CEO and co-founder from Syndika. Tzahi, great to have you with us, my friend.
Thank you, Mike, for inviting me. Pleasure to be here.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Tzahi, I know we've kind of known each other for a couple of months. We've had the pleasure of finding out more about Syndika. We've even had a beautiful partnership. For the people that don't know you listening to the podcast, please introduce
Mhm.
yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're building in the space, and the mic is yours, my friend.
Great, thanks a lot. So I'm in Web3 in the last 9 years. I've been working in technology and startups all my life, but the last 9 years only Web3.
Hmm.
And my main interest and focus is more into early stage startups and more into financial products, DeFi, TradeFi, infrastructure. Um, so this is a little bit about myself. I live in Israel, and the company Syndika is around 60 people, and we are together for many years. So the whole, let's say, leadership of the company, we know each other very well. So it really helps for execution, and also it's really nice to work with people that you know and trust.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. So 9 years in the space, that makes you an OG, right? So you've seen the bull market, you've seen the return of the bull market, you've seen some bear markets. How did you first get into the Web3 crypto space? I find it always
Mhm.
interesting how people first got into the rabbit hole. How did
Yeah.
it happen for you?
Actually, one of my friends, there are two things. One is how I got into Bitcoin, and then how I get to Web3, right? So it's always
Hmm.
like this. So Bitcoin, first people told me, friends, it's amazing, 2011. And I said, no, it cannot be. And in 2013, I believed them. And then I started just to buy, but nothing more than that. And then mid to the end of 2016, one of my friends came and said, "Look, I need your help, a blockchain developer." I said, "I have no clue what you're talking about. I know Bitcoin. What do you mean developer? Like Bitcoin Core? What is your interest to develop Bitcoin Core?" He said, "No, no, no, there's Ethereum, there are smart contracts." I said, "Okay, let me take a look." And that was the start. So we first started to assist my friend with the startup, and then we understood that it's a very new industry. So early stage startups needs a lot of support because the
Hmm.
whole market is new, and that was the beginning of our activity in the Web3 world.
Beautiful, beautiful. And that was 9 years ago?
Yeah, long time.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So listen, let's talk a little bit more about Syndika because obviously you guys are supporting startups, you're helping them grow, you're creating kind of the roadmap for them. Give us a little bit of the alpha. What is it that you guys do? How does it
Mhm.
work? What are you helping with? Maybe even if you're able to, maybe share a little bit of stories that projects you guys have worked with, because I'm sure the
Or,
listeners would find it so fascinating.
so um, the focus of Syndika is our venture studio. So we
Mhm.
are looking for very early stage Web3 startup. Like always, we look for a great team and good product. Usually, a good team is a good team. You cannot change that. But product is something that you can polish and look for a better market fit. So what Syndika is doing, we are 60 people, like I said. Most of the team is tech people,
Mhm.
cyber, and also deep economics, mainly data science.
Mhm.
And when we are accepting a startup to our venture studio, we are doing a very hands-on work, meaning we invest and we grow at least 6 to 9 months with full team, usually from 6 to 10 people from our team. In one sentence, is bring a startup from a valuation of 1 to 3 million into 10, 12, 15 million. That's the idea.
Mhm.
And we assist with everything related to what the startup needs. So in-house, we can do everything related to the technology, the product market fit, the go-to-market, etc. Token economics, just making sure that we are going the right way, partners,
Mhm.
etc.
Mhm.
And of course, funding. And with all the ecosystem that we have, friends, the partners, etc., the whole rest. what they need. So this is our main model, but it's a very, let's say, long-term model. So in addition to this, we offer our activity as a service. Usually when we give a service, let's say technology, Web3 technology, then it also comes with strategic consulting, because for us, the client is like a partner, so we will assist in everything else that the startup might need. And the last thing is we are called Syndika because we are also a syndicate of Web3 founders. And the idea here is to offer good founders that we like a free space that everyone in the space is vetted. So it's a community of co-founders that are very strong in what they're doing. And it's really important for both the founder, but also for us for execution. So if we take, for example, one of the co-founders, for example, is an expert in Web3 banking. If I have an issue in Web3 banking, I want to make sure that I know that everything is correct, because it's very difficult to be hands-on in every topic. So,
Very true.
of course, it's easier to ask someone you trust than to go to a service provider that you know that wants to sell you, and it's a little bit, let's say, more difficult. So, yeah, I can give a few examples of our activity, but I think our recent activity is 4 years ago, we set up a startup called Kima.
Yeah.
It's a deep tech startup that is doing is infrastructure for interoperability. Basically, it's a L1 on a Cosmos SDK, which can control the blockchain itself and can control other blockchains. And just very briefly, we can move in a decentralized way every asset from one chain to the other, but not only from one chain to the other, but also we can connect it in a decentralized way to Web2, like cards, banks, etc. So Kima in general has two routes. One is the crypto route. We can enable dApps to accept tokens from every other chain, whatever. And the institutional route, where it's mostly for settlement. So institution can do settlement. For example, commercial banks can do settlement for CBDCs. And we have done a POC with the European Central Bank for this, for example. And also any institution that want to cooperate with another institution, the only thing they need to agree is about the token itself, meaning if they want to settle specific token, just to agree that this is the same asset, very briefly. So Kima started, like I said, 4 years ago, two founders with Dex, and now there are around, I don't know, 35 people in the company, and we have a lot of activity. So I think this is a good example of the process, but as you can understand, 4 years, it's not short term.
4 years? Listen, 4 years in the Web3 crypto space is like 10 years probably, right? In
Yeah,
the real world.
exactly. So
And the fact that you guys have been around 9 years, I mean, listen, that's fantastic. And I really liked how you dived into the reason why Syndika is called Syndika. That's a beautiful little reasoning there. And I thank you so much for diving into that Kima example. I have a question, right? When we look at the concept of startups, especially with what Syndika does, being that growth venture, helping to scale the project, take them from early stage, you mentioned two things there. You said the team and you said the products, right? But perhaps there's not a long list, maybe 3, 4 things that when you're initially looking at a project and you can kind of pinpoint, because you guys have had enough experience at this, right? There's probably a few things that you look at. Yes, team, yes, product. But what else do you guys kind of spot or smell or just have a sixth sense for? And you're like, you know what? This is a winner. This is a Kima. Or you know what? This is probably a no-goer. What would you share? Because I think some of the founders, builders listening to this would find that really, really interesting.
Okay. First of all, it's very difficult question because there's a lot of unknown things. The main difficulty, I think, is that let's say that you receive, I don't know, dozens of startup a month. So you cannot really spend enough time on each one to be 100% sure that you've done really professional work and you
It's
investigated everything.
impossible.
So
Yeah.
exactly. So we usually look for proxies, something that will tell us, okay, this is a no-go and this is let's spend more time, right? So first of all, we look at the team, but not only the person himself or herself, but also the dedication. So if they're full-time on the project, their background, not only from the ability, they could be great people. Let's say that two guys, amazing guys, they're great tech guys, and they develop a product for derivatives. So my question is, no problem, you can execute the technology, but what do you know about derivatives? So I always try to understand where is the exact point that is crucial for the success of the startup, and then understand if these guys can really execute this. So if it's deep tech, so the focus is on tech, right? But if it's not deep tech, why? Why do we need the two founders that are tech people? They need someone with other capacities to execute. And there's a lot of other proxies. Usually, because we do sometimes very early stage, then there are less proxies. But sometimes we look at other investors, right? And sometimes we look at what they've done already. So we are less looking into, it's my personal, into community, if they have a good community or not, whatever. Of course, it's some kind of a proxy, but we mostly look at what they've done until now, and do they understand, can I see that they understand the future, right? That the milestone that they choose to do at the beginning are the correct ones. Because startups is steps, and it's very difficult. Like I gave you the example of Kima, so it went into bull runs and bear market that was very rough. So if you don't know how to manage it in good times and bad times, it's very challenging.
That's a very interesting point there, Tzahi, that you're mentioning, right? Managing it in good times and bad times, right? Because I think
Mhm.
managing a project in good times, when it's bull run, when green candles, when everyone's happy, when everyone's like, woohoo, moon,
Yeah,
time, right? It's very easy because the sentiment, the narrative is very positive. When it's going against you, when the market is going against you, I mean, I was almost going to say a little bit like now. I mean, now is a bit of an interesting time, right? It's a bit of a tricky
yeah,
period. Bitcoin's going, we're all waiting for alt season, etc.,
yeah.
etc. But perhaps we can double down a little bit, because I love what you're talking about in terms of helping the projects, helping the early stage builders. One of my questions I like to ask the founders is, what is the biggest problem you're solving within the Web3
Sure.
space, right? I think we kind of got a bit of a flavor. You're helping the project, you're giving them advice. I think what I would be really curious to see is, what do you see as some of the classic, let's say, mistakes, quote unquote? What are some of the classic mistakes you're seeing maybe builders, projects, founders making? And how is Syndika kind of helping them to not make
Okay.
those mistakes, right? I think one thing you doubled down on, which was quite interesting, and then I'd be so curious to hear what you're going to say, is making sure they're doing the right things in the right order, right? I see
Mhm.
this constantly from founders that I work with. They want to raise money, they want to build a community, they want to do this, they want to do tokenomics, and they're doing it all in like a bit of a circus, right? But,
Exactly.
but I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Mhm. Okay, so first, it depends case by case, right? But I think one of the most first of all, you talk to a founder, the only thing he wants is she wants is to raise capital. Doesn't matter,
True.
which is correct. But first, I think you need to understand that one of the worst thing, I think, to a founder is to raise capital to the wrong project. What do I mean? Usually, you won't raise a lot of money. So if you raised $20 million, okay, great. You can live forever. You can make pivots, no problem. But if you raise, like usually 200K, 250, you have one chance. Now, the problem is that you didn't check enough the product itself. You didn't check enough that you can really execute it. And now you spend 6, 7, 8 months of your life, money is gone. And now you need to leave someone with the project and decide what to do next. So sometimes what happens is you just waste 1 year of your life for a project that didn't have, any chance from the beginning. So
Yeah.
I always suggest, look, be patient. Let's make sure that this is the one we're going for. And
Yes.
no problem, you raise money, stop. It doesn't mean that you need to spend all of it for what you thought is correct at the beginning. Slowly, let's make sure that this is the right project, this is the right product. If not, let's make a pivot right now. But it always happens that when they have money, they say, okay, now let's not think about what is it for, but let's how we spend it. But it's not. You don't need to spend it. What you need is to invest it in your startup, right? You always need to think. This is one of the main thing that I see with funding. And the second thing is
Mm.
A product market fit. It's
Mhm.
very, it's coming from usually from two places. One is they have no clue, right?
Yes.
They think they have no clue. Really, there is no demand for this. There is no market. Even if it's amazing, it will make $3. It's really small.
Yes.
And maybe it will be in 10 years great, but do you have money for
Hmm.
10 years? So this is one mistake. The second mistake, I think, is when we talk about a product market fit, is the founders are very optimistic on that. So they talk to two guys, and then now they're sure that because they said it's great, it will be sold for them. So yeah, and it's not like that. Product
Hmm.
market fit is the process. It's not talking to a few people and ask them, what do you think?
Yes. Yes. I fully
Um,
agree with that. It's so fascinating what you're saying, Tahi, to me, because I talk to so many builders and founders where I'm like, a great team, good setup, interesting idea, but how strong is your product, right? Because if you start doing marketing, if you start growing that project, it's just going to accelerate the rate that you realize
mhm.
that your product actually is not ready for the market. And then, like you're saying, the funding that maybe you raise, that 200K, 300K, whatever it is, evaporates because you're
Yeah.
not fully, you're not fully on the right road, right? I listen, really grateful, love the alpha that you're sharing, and I'm sure the founders, builders listening to this would find it so interesting. Tell us something. You guys have been going for 9 years, Syndika. What
Mhm.
is what
Yeah.
is the goals within the business? What is the aspiration? Maybe what are the goals for
Mhm.
yourself personally within the crypto and Web3
Mhm.
space?
Yeah, so I think both for Syndika and myself, we always look for interesting project. At the end, we've done almost 100 projects or worked.
Wow.
So we look for interesting project and good people to work with. Not only successful people, not only bright people, but people that it's great to work with because the early stage is always challenging and it's a lot about trust and a lot about, okay, let's think together and let's handle this together and let's talk to people. It's a lot about really small pieces and hands-on work. So
Mm,
if people don't cooperate or they don't understand that it's the success is not 0 or 1. It's a lot about really hard work.
mhm,
And hard work, it means talk to your partners, talk to your friends, talk to the employees, talk to the team,
mhm,
talk to your investors. Let's think again, let's stop, let's relax, let's take it easy and see what are we doing from here.
mhm,
So this is what we're looking, and we are always looking for new ventures, also as partners, and we're doing it in different fields. But it's it's really what I'm saying. I don't really care about the subject itself, right? It could be payments, it could be that, but always the people. And if I think that these guys they have something, right? They know where they're
mm,
going, they know what they're doing, and it's
mm.
fine to work with them. We like them, we enjoy, when they come on Google Meet, you smile because you like the person. So
Yes.
because we work what you're doing, it's really challenging, and we really love the sector, right? We really love Web3. So
Yeah, no, 100%. There has to be a good energy. There has to be a good vibe. There has to be good
exactly.
collaboration, right? Listen, let's talk a little bit about the market at the moment. We're obviously seeing, Bitcoin on its own. We're seeing the altcoins do whatever they're up to. What is a narrative? We're seeing so many narratives, right? The RWAs, you mentioned DPINs,
Yeah,
there's AI agents, etc. now,
yeah,
obviously the meme coins, etc. What is the
yeah.
narrative in the space that you're seeing that you're quite excited about, that you're quite bullish on, that you see,
Mhm.
what? There's really big opportunity for this. What would you say here?
Yeah. Okay. I think what I'll say is really the obvious, but first of all, the blue chips, right? You see all the time, companies every day. You hear that there's a new Bitcoin treasury, and so it looks very obvious, and it's really supported by by U.S. government and how before Trump, before 6 months ago, if you heard some news like this that you hear every day today, the Bitcoin would have jumped 10%. But now you hear it every day, and so I believe we will see there. Trends, there's a lot of trends. AI is a strong trend that started a few months ago, but I think now it will slow a little bit because there's a lot of fragmentation there. So a lot of pieces need to come together when it started in one day, 3,000 bots, agents, doing same, whatever, but not really.
Nothing
But
different.
when Trump came to office, I thought that the main place to be is everything related to the connection between Web 2 and Web 3 finance, meaning TradeFi and DeFi,
Mm,
crypto banking, Web 3 banking, everything related to, of course, stablecoin is very hot now, but it's just part of it. So every builder that is looking into this market, for example, everything that maybe we've done before, but now you do it more for institutions, more in compliance, etc., is amazing. And of course, infrastructure. Always we
mm,
need stronger infrastructure. So infrastructure for AI agent, amazing.
mm.
Um,
No, that's fantastic. I really appreciate that. Listen, you've shared some really great alpha with us, Tzahi. You've really gone through the process. It was really great to hear about the Kima story as well. One last thing before we
Thanks.
wrap up. I always ask people on the podcast to share maybe a quote or some kind of maybe piece of advice for other builders, founders, building in the space. You've been around Syndika 9 years in the space. You've seen hundreds of projects. So listen, it's up to you. You can either share maybe a quote or you could share maybe a piece of advice for the audience listening.
Um, well, there are a lot of things, but let's focus on founders because I think the future of every industry is the founders. At the end,
Sure.
they are let's say, they are leading the space. At the end, without them, it would be impossible. So I think, first of all, it's amazing that there's a lot of people that want to be builders. But I
Mm-hmm.
think the main thing is before going into market, before running into raising capital, build a strong team, people that you trust and you believe that you can go with them for years because it's a long journey. It's not a half a year, it's like few years. So I think a lot of startups are failing in this aspect. So build a good team that you trust and bring co-founders that fill in everything related to the core of the startup. So if it's a deep tech, you need to be deep tech. If it's a marketing related, bring strong marketing. If it's
Mm-hmm.
finance, bring someone who's strong in finance. Otherwise, it would be challenging to
So
succeed.
make sure you have a solid team around you and then grow from there.
Exactly. Otherwise, it would be very challenging.
I love that. I love that. Tzahi, thank you so much for all the knowledge. Thank
Pleasure.
you
Thank
so much
you,
for
Mike.
sharing all the alpha. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. This has been Tzahi, co-founder,
Mm.
CEO from Syndika, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thanks a lot.